Vanessa, would you like to kick us off?
With pleasure. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are very excited to have you on this webinar. I will say that I will start from house rules and then we will move to the real content. So this gathering has two parts. One is mostly very quick and short presentation, and the second one is basically an interaction and engagement with you. We want to hear what you think about our work so far and how is it relevant to you, entrepreneurs, investors, ecosystem builders, etc. So please feel free to drop us questions in the Q&A. And while we move to when we will move to the workshop phase, please raise your hand and then we can unmute you and hear you. So engage, engage, engage. That's the only request that I have for you for this, what is a conversation but not a lecture. Now I would love to share a few slides with you to share the scope of the project we've been working on for the past year and a half. And I started with a short inspirational quote that I hope that will make more sense as we move along. So, hi, I'm Vanessa Kaczerginski. I'm the CEO of the Israeli Forum for Impact Economy, which is the Israeli National Advisory Board to the GSG. And we initiated a project that is seeking to connect so our organization, try to promote impact economy. It's a systemic-based approach to move policy, investors, corporates, both supply, demand, and policymakers to create a sustainable impact economy that grows and solves societal greatest challenges. And in the Israeli context, technology is a huge resource to solve these challenges. This is why we launched the initiative with our amazing partners, the SDG-driven Tech Innovation Ecosystem Initiatives, which is led by the IFIE and in collaboration with Social Impact Agenda per Italia, MAID from Portugal, FAIR from France, and the GSG as our partners, and is funded by Horizon and the UKRI. And the idea is that we were trying to find a way to kind of shift the mindset of the impact movement, which is focused mostly on what we see now, mobilizing capital to drive impact. And as I shared already, in the Israeli context, but I think that we've realized now that also in other ecosystems, capital is not the only resource to drive impact. Technology is also a very important resource that is unfortunately not matched with the right type of funding to drive the real impact. And another essential component is the network facilitation or the ecosystem builders, if you would like. And this is what we looked into in this 2-year-long project, where we were seeking to develop a roadmap of creation of viable ecosystem that actually promotes impact technology or SDG technology. Obviously, it has many names, but we mean the same thing. We use the double diamond methodology to try to discover. So we have research that Gila will share with you after me, and also try to define, is it SDG tech? Is it impact tech? Is there a huge difference between the two? In the definition phase, we kind of identified 3 different types of impact technology. The first one is tech-based initiatives, innovation that creates product or services. So tech startups, companies that their product or service solves a greater societal or environmental challenge. The second type of impact tech or tech for the SDGs is the one that actually serves and facilitates the work of NGOs and public organizations. And the third type is kind of tech as a social mobilizer, tech training for employment to see the way that we improve the income capacities of different groups that are being neglected in this tech ecosystem. And we see different intervention models that we can see the Turkey launched a social impact bond in tech training for social mobilization. So there are already different examples and case studies, even outside of our consortium, that we could look into. We are now at this phase, at the final development and delivering of the final steps that we identified as here are the best practices and steps to build a viable ecosystem that promotes impact technology. And we are in the phases of developing a knowledge platform that aggregates all of the data and knowledge that we've gathered so far and make it accessible essentially to you and to other stakeholders that are interested by it as an open source, to list and map the effective intervention. And spoiler, we're planning to create a follow-on project that will talk about the implementation of these interventions in different ecosystems. And also a toolkit, a guidebook on how to build a vibrant ecosystem in different geographies and contexts, and what are the best practices and tools. So I'll finish really quickly by these 4 calls for actions. First of all, share with us, drop us a line in the Q&A, in an email afterwards, if you like it, if you think it's relevant to you. Share the research and other parts of the work that we will share with you with your ecosystems. Tell us about your ideas and best practices if we've missed any, or you think that there are some that are very relevant that we should take into consideration. And we already sent as an open source our mapping methodology that Gila will share with you soon. So we encourage you to also exercise this research methodology on your ecosystem, and we'll be more than happy to see you through this process. I am passing the baton, Gila, to you. Thank you, everybody, and see you at the end.
Great, thank you so much, Vanessa. I'll just share my screen. Okay, wonderful. So I'm really pleased to be able to share with you some of the findings from our mapping study for the project. My name is Gila Norwich. I'm head of knowledge development for the GSG, the Global Steering Group for Impact Investing. We're an action tank to accelerate impact investing globally. We work through national partners in about 50 countries to champion policy reform, engage with investors, build capacities, and share market insight. This project, as Vanessa mentioned, was undertaken with 4 different national advisory boards, different national partners in Israel, Portugal, France, Italy, and we also had ancillary partners in 3 different Central European countries. So first, let me introduce you to the methodology that we used. Really, the aim of this project was to really understand what's the current state of play with regard to SDG tech innovation ecosystems. And so in order to do that, we together with our partners mapped the SDG-driven innovation contexts in our respective countries. We looked at the broader tech innovation ecosystem that is comprised by government funding, accelerators and incubators, all the sort of usual suspects that you would imagine in a tech ecosystem, startups, corporate venturing, actors where their motivation really is around financial performance and introducing new technologies to the market. And then as well, the social innovation ecosystem, which is comprised of activities that are supported by charitable foundations, by corporate social responsibility units, nonprofits, NGOs, social enterprises, etc. And then we kind of looked at the overlap between these 2 ecosystems, and we decided that we would focus on initiatives that are really part of the impact tech ecosystem, meaning impact startups that are explicit about generating impact aligned to 1 or more of the SDGs, and digital social innovation activities, which is comprised of innovators, users, communities that are collaborating to address explicitly social needs. Our mapping methodology built on a framework that GSG had already delivered and developed for guiding how to build impact economies. And it's comprised of market participants, market facilitators, and market regulation. And we aligned it to the actors, the resources, the initiatives that we wanted to pick up from our ecosystems. So it's looking at different areas of impact tech financing, who's providing the finance behind this, whether you're on the impact tech side or the social innovation side, who's active in this with regard to impact startups, digital social economy organizations. On the market facilitation side, we wanted to understand to what extent are there actual central units that are guiding and picking up on SDG aligned activities, whether it's related to technology or more broadly. We wanted to understand what kind of initiatives and offices are available at the national and municipal level to pick up explicitly SDG aligned activities. Similarly, we looked at different initiatives taking place within academia, at think tanks, advisory firms, networking activities, tech transfer programs that are initiated to really commercialize new technologies that might provide a solution to an explicitly SDG challenge, and different deal-making platforms that facilitate supply and demand. Finally, market regulation, just looking at what exists on the side of public procurement, fiscal incentives, and actual disclosure that aligns with the SDGs and explicitly SDG-aligned technology. And just to go through some of our findings and our recommendations that are aligned to these findings. We found that public financing entities just occasionally incorporate SDGs into their investment strategies. They're not readily, it's not readily explained or cited by national strategies. On the VC side, we collected information on about a handful of explicitly impact VCs per country. This means VCs that are aligning their thematic activities to one of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. But interestingly, we also saw a very, very broad remit of activities. About 19,000 different startups across Europe have the potential to provide solutions to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. But because most of them aren't explicit about addressing these goals, are not explicit about measuring their impact, and are not explicit about the types of communities that they're really trying to reach with their technology, we see that maybe this type of value is being left on the table, and it's not reaching kind of its full potential. It's not solving the issues that we so readily need to address. And our recommendations: more public financing needs to prioritize support for impact tech that aligns to the SDGs. We want to see more linkages between corporate social responsibility and their corporate venturing. And soon we're going to hear a speaker address one of these topics. And then also we think that SDG aligned ventures and VCs should explicitly reference the SDGs in order to really link up solutions with existing challenges. Over on the market facilitation side, we know that on the EU level, and this project is supported by the European Commission and UKRI. In the EU, SDGs are referenced in the back documents, but for public opinion and public information, it's really not cited. So it's not really front and center to different market actors. We know that about 5 or 10 intermediaries are working in each country, and they're doing a lot of activity. They're raising awareness about the UN Sustainable Development Goals, about impact measurement frameworks, about this need to generate more ecosystem activity, cross-sector collaboration between government, between VC, between corporates. And interestingly, in academia, SDGs feature prominently in social sciences courses, which is great, but they're less mentioned in STEM, which means that it's less being picked up in domains that that are really more associated with technology, climate engineering, water technologies. So students in these domains are not necessarily sensitized to the SDGs. On market regulation, there really is no official definition of SDG-driven technology. We know that there is a lot of progress happening at the EU level to define and bring further clarity to green and climate-related activities, and I think that this is a great start, and we want to see much more explicit frameworks and descriptions around what technologies would potentially align to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And then in public procurement, we want to see more countries, only 57% of our sample, have public procurement guidelines that explicitly prioritize solutions aligned to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Just a couple of deliverables from our project. The purpose of this mapping, what this mapping enables, it enabled the countries to really have a snapshot of their progress, of their state of play, if you will, on SDG-driven innovation ecosystem. So here's an example from Italy. We see that they have strengths and best practices that they can share with other countries with regard to market participation, market facilitation, market regulation. Over on the right hand of the slide, you can really see some of these stark gaps between the amount of VC capital that is flowing and then the actual capital that is flowing to startups that have an explicit strategy to address the SDGs. And we think that this gap needs to be bridged. Again, you can see total startups, you can see the amount of social innovation organizations, and only a very small portion of that is explicitly aligned to the SDGs, and we want to see that grow. Finally, you can see in our executive summary a mapping of different best-in-class examples. So I definitely encourage you to go into that map, to go into that executive summary and to look at the topics that we included in our mapping study and to replicate this in your own market, because I think that once we have a state of play that's broad, we can share examples, we can pick up good examples from other countries, and we can really accelerate activity to meet the SDGs through technology. And now I will move over to our panel. So we have 3 panelists now who are going to bring some of these concepts to life. Our first panelist is Yonatan Menuhin from the Israel Innovation Institute. And he is going to speak about how industry can better harness tech and innovation to tackle the SDGs. So I'd love to invite Yonatan to give some remarks. I'll just say before, please do ask questions, pop some questions into the Q&A function. And after the 3 speakers, we'll get to some Q&A and you can unmute and ask our panelists and engage. Over to you, Yonatan.
Thank you, Gila. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, the GSG organization, to arrange this event. I'm the head of the Israel Innovation Institute. It's an NGO focusing on the development of different solutions in that target the global challenges and the implementation of those technologies in Israel. Right now, we are operating in 6 areas: EcoMotion for smart mobility, Health for digital health, Growing for agriculture, Catalyst, it's our collaboration arm, Desert Tech, it's for desert tech, of course, Planet Tech for climate change, and Aquacultech for aquaculture. One moment. Sorry, why it's not okay. When we look at fintech, at cyber, at gaming, we see a lot of solutions. But strangely enough, in the world of impact, SDG, whatever, all the global challenges, we don't see enough solution. And we ask ourselves why. How come that the most pressing problem of the world, there is not enough solution? When we were in the university, we've been told that if there is a demand, and then the related supplies, then the price go up, and the price go up, and then more solution will come to the market. So this is an efficient market. But then definitely when we look at the SDG, tech innovation, we don't see a lot of startups. So we begin to ask ourselves, why? Why there is a market failure in this market? Why there is not a lot of solutions rising? We know the problem. The problem is here. Why the Israeli entrepreneur doesn't approach those markets? And in the last 13 years that the institution is working, we began to understand that first there is a little awareness of the business side of the SDGs. And I'm talking about the corporate, and I'm talking about the entrepreneur. There's a bad publicity for the topic, and we need to make more awareness. The second thing is it's a new market, and the relevant stakeholders are disconnected. There are so many type of disciplines involved. There are so many corporate that doesn't know how they should enter this field. So no connection, and there is no power of a community. There is a really lack of knowledge about what are the needs and what are the opportunities and the solution in the market. So even if you want to engage in that field, it's very hard to enter. The fourth thing is about the implementation. The implementation is very painful. Everybody loves innovation, but innovation, specifically systemic innovation where SDG is needed, it's very difficult. Hospitals know how to buy new MRI machine, but how to implement the digital health solution is very difficult because it's need to change processes, capabilities, different silos. So, and implementation is a very difficult thing. And the last thing, that the global ecosystem is fragmented. In the knowledge exists and the capability exists in different parts of the world, and there is no connection. There is no really. We need to bring more and more players to work together, and that's why this is our methodology in which we operate in all of our communities, and in a different level. But let me explain. First is about market education. When we initiate a community or ecosystem, we begin to try to lure a lot of participants to enter. When we began with our climate community, we put an ad, say the first trillionaire, it will be the one that solve climate issues. Okay, so we bring more and more people that are interested in a topic and can say, okay, maybe it's relevant for me. So in a way, we bring more and more, and I will give an example later. The second thing is about creating a social capital. It's about connection. Connection could be in seminars, in dedicated meetup, in intros letter that each community is writing between members of the communities, in a website, in investor map, in solution map, in all those type of tools in which they can collaborate and see what they are doing and how, and to connect and to create one-on-one free. The third thing is about access for knowledge. Right now, there is everyone is trying to hold their knowledge that he has, and nobody knows about the opportunities, the challenges, the solution. So in a way, we publish everything for free. We publish seminar, white paper, competition, courses in which we identify hot topic, and we give it for free to all the relevant people in Israel and abroad, by the way. Everybody can register to our communities. It's free of charge, and you can participate in our online event. The fourth thing that we are doing is open innovation. Open innovation, it's quite a tricky thing. This is the holy grail of modern cooperation. Everybody loves it, but it's very difficult. Most of the innovation that enter cooperation failed because you need to understand both the processes and the technology. We understand both, and we help cooperation in Israel to implement technology and create new opportunities for startups. The last thing is about internationalization. We are working very hard to bring more and more players to Israel. Since we are an NGO and we don't hold any position in the market, we are working with multinational, with investor, that they know that we don't have any conflicts of interest, and we help them to enter Israel and to bring more money, connection, and capabilities to the Israeli market. I will show you how we're doing it in a showcase, in a case study in a minute, but I would like to focus on our unit of analysis is the challenge. The challenge-centric approach, and this is the map of the challenges of desert tech, in which we said, okay, this is the problem of desert tech, and it's mentioned in the website, in the community's website. And those challenges, this is corporate challenges, because corporate challenges, it's opportunity for entrepreneur to raise money. So this is and this is the focus. Now I would like to show you how we employ our methodology as desert tech. When we initiate desert tech, we didn't know what kind of solution, who are the interested body in that topic. So we created a competition. And in the competition, we just want to know who is interested and to make this topic more interesting and in the public sphere. So we have the competition, and then we created a social capital creation where we have a special meetup between farmers in the Israeli desert, the Negev desert, and entrepreneur that we thought that have the solution is relevant for them. So they spoke, they understand both, they gain a lot of value from that. The entrepreneur, definitely the farmers, and some, I think 15 contracts were made from this meeting. The access to knowledge, we created the Desert Tech marketplace where, according to the challenges, we presented, and here in the picture there is you can find 67 challenges of real cooperation. In that case, is in Africa, but okay, and this is relevant for corporate, for farmers, so they know that actually what is the problem, and for entrepreneur to identify and to create solution and to link between the supply and the demand of innovation. And this is, again, it's happened there and it's free of charge. Open innovation facilitation, we created a competition, Water Rural Africa with Innovate Africa. It's an Israeli NGO, the digging wells in Africa, and we're looking for new technologies, and we work with them. And in the end of the day, this NGO has business with different entrepreneurs in that field. And one moment. And internationalization, we conduct a project with the UNCCD and the Great Green Wall with 30 African leaders that will study about open innovation, how to present their challenges, and how to scout for technology that is relevant for them. And in a way, we make our Desert Tech community more international. Right now, we are working with the IDB, the Inter-American Development Bank, to do a similar project in Central and Central America. One of the things that we're working right now, this is our biggest project right now, is to create the Market Square. It's a technological platform where, according to the different challenges, we can see in the first layer the solutions, the startup, and then the investor, and then different corporate that said are interested in that topic, and then maybe a knowledge organization or a service provider. We're building that in a way that similar organization like us from all over the world can join and to put their ecosystem in the same platform. So corporate, they don't care if the solution comes from Israel or from France, so they can check whatever they need. So it's make the system better, and the market will be more efficient. So let me summarize. I think that the main point that I would like that you will take from this presentation. First, market innovation, to foster market innovation is possible. In the last 13 years, we succeed to show tremendous development in the ecosystem in impact innovation in Israel. Right now, $35 billion were invested in smart mobility. Israel is considered the number 7 in the world in agri-tech. Our climate tech communities raise a lot of fund. Right now, every 6 startup in Israel is on climate, and so on and so far. So if you go in systematically, you can change the market. As you see, 25% of the Israeli startup are on climate or on impact, so it's possible. First, it's adopt a challenge-based approach, because challenge, it's mean opportunities. So speaking the language of opportunities, and it's about money in the end of the day. And global collaboration is so important, and I'm so happy to have this opportunity to speak in this event, because this is our responsibility to make the collaboration. Thank you, Gila.
Great, thank you, Yonatan. It's great to see all these ways that you're bringing to bear corporates, local leaders, tech companies together to foster collaboration around solutions. And I'm wondering, I wanted to ask you, who within the corporates are the best people or the best teams to approach? Is it strategy? Is it product? Is it C-level? Who is best placed to engage in this concept of innovation?
C-level. When we enter, I remember that I went I have a meeting with the head of hospital and asked him, where are you going to invest your money? Because it's a question of money. And I said, I don't care if this is because your service is bad, you want to excel, to compete, you want to retain your staff, I don't care. In the end of the day, it's innovation, and especially SDG innovation is about the strategy of the corporate is regarding the risk and the opportunities for them. So for me, it's very clear. I'm a doctor of strategy, and I'm not working only with innovation per se. Innovation is they're looking for innovation, and not a sustainability officer or something like that. It should be, and I would translate their need to the SDGs. This is my role, but they should, and the CEO need to say, okay, I'm willing to invest in that field. I want it to be better.
Great. Well, we hope to see more of that going forward. We know that corporates are under a lot of pressure to make their products more sustainable. They have a lot to bring to this conversation, and we're hoping to engage them more. So thank you, Yonatan. Next speaker that we have up for you is Ying So. Ying is co-head and global portfolio manager, disruptive technologies and venture capital at IFC. And she's going to speak about how startups and VCs can help meet social and environmental challenges facing emerging markets. Ying, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to this forum to share some of the work that we're doing at IFC. My name is Ying. I'm the Global Portfolio Manager and Co-Head for IFC's Venture Capital Practice. It's very good to be here to discuss some of the work that we're doing in the supporting the digital economy and digital entrepreneurship across emerging markets through private sector solutions, both in private equity and venture capital. So just by way of background, IFC has been an active investor across the private equity and venture capital asset class for over a number of decades. Particularly on the venture capital side, we have been an active investor across emerging markets since 2010. Today, we have roughly 2.8 billion of invested capital deployed in this asset class. And we have supported over 110 companies, as well as 120 plus active venture capital funds, seed funds, and accelerator across emerging markets. We have global presence across the world. We are headquarters in Washington, D.C., but we do have teams and staff located in each of the regions that we're active in. This includes East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Middle East, Africa, as well as Latin America. And so with boots on the ground with an active VC funds portfolio, we do have an extensive network and reach across each of these markets and regions. And you would see that over time, we have expanded our footprint activities from some of the core venture ecosystems like China and India to some of the more nascent and growing ones across LATAM, Southeast Asia, and other regions as well. The way that we engage in the venture industry is that we want to have a product and solution across the entire entrepreneurship lifecycle. So we do have a number of different strategies to enable us to do that, primarily through funds as well as direct investments. On the fund side, typically we support GPs, typically generalist venture capital funds, as well as some sector funds at the early stage, typically seed and Series A stage. And on the direct investment side, typically then we come in at the early growth stage, at Series B and beyond, where we focus on specific sectors and themes that I will go into a little bit further down the presentation. And then finally, in the last 5-6 years, we have focused particularly on the earlier stage of the ecosystem, particularly at the accelerator and seed stage, in some of the nascent markets and ecosystem where venture capital as an asset class is still underdeveloped or not as developed in some of the more mature markets. And so through deployment through Startup Catalyst, we have supported over 30 accelerator and seed funds in some of the more challenging geographies, frontier markets, and fragile and conflict states as well. I think I covered this already in terms of our intervention, but one takeaway on a specific strategy is that really we have two approaches to how we want to achieve the SDG goals. One is directly through investments in the Series B stage and beyond in companies directly that cover certain sectors such as healthcare, education, climate broadly defined, including agri-tech, traditional climate and clean tech, as well as e-logistics and mobility, transportation verticals. We also look at inclusion as a broad theme. That could cover everything from financial inclusion to any types of B2B or B2C marketplaces that targets SMEs as a segment to provide productivity and commercial tools to enable them to expand their market share in their respective markets. We overlay that with other strategic priorities, including IDA and FCS markets or frontier markets, where we can extend our reach for VC funds and catalyst funds, and through gender goals, through supporting our fund managers to increase the gender diversity, both at the fund level as well as the indirect investee level. Here's a quick snapshot of the various sectors that we cover and some of the companies that we have supported to date. We support both homegrown companies across emerging markets, But we also look at companies that may be based out of the US or Europe that may have a extensive footprint across emerging markets or specific markets where they can extend their reach to certain customers across different segments. We do have a very robust impact measurement framework to how to measure the potential development impact of the companies that we support. And this is largely defined by two aspects. One is around the expected project outcome. So to what extent the companies that invest in have the potential to scale to reach either an IPO or a merger and acquisition exit that enables it to reach either customers or services or students or patients if it's in the health and education space. And then on the other category, it's on market competition. So by investing in this company in this particular category, how will it enable similar companies to surface or emerge in that similar space to increase competition and bring down costs, ultimately that benefit the end consumers and the customers. And to end, maybe just to give one specific example of investment that we've done on the venture capital side. This is a company called Tembisi, which is the largest shared dock bike provider with a fleet of over 22,000 bikes across 14 cities in Latin America. We invested in this company at the beginning of the pandemic during COVID, so a rather risky investment for us. But we did see the potential of supporting a innovative business model that provide access to a low-cost public transportation to a low-income segment in the region that also has a zero and significant climate emissions reductions footprint. In terms of our value add and value creation activities, we have been actively engaged with the company, with our mainstream counterparts and our World Bank counterparts to see how we can support them on public-private partnership discussions to expand the services and biking infrastructure to different parts of the region and to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And then additionally on the sustainability strategy, we also supported the company to become the first micromobility issuer of global carbon credits in a way that they can monetize them, but also use as a marketing tool to attract more customers to use the bikes and services. So I'll end there in terms of a quick overview of what we do on the venture side. Looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ying. That was really interesting. It was great to hear more about the themes and the sectors that you're supporting. It was really interested to hear more about how you're assessing impact, both on the project outcome side and on the market building or sector building side. And I'm just wondering, kind of thinking about other potential co-investors, are you seeing enough either VCs or other models, other seed capital or growth capital flowing either from developed markets into emerging markets or in emerging markets themselves? And what can be done to encourage further flows to support these solutions?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think it really varies across markets. If you look at Latin America, if you look at India, these are pretty healthy venture ecosystems. Although I think with the market correction in the last few years, the capital deployment has reduced significantly. So I think if more than anything, there is more of a role for DFIs and also private sector to continue to stay engaged in these ecosystems. If you look at the Middle East or Africa, different parts of Africa, these are regions that has been historically been underfunded relative to other regions and relative to capital deployed per GDP. So we are intentionally focusing our efforts to both invest in companies directly, as I mentioned, but also support venture capital funds and fund managers to support their ability to raise money, not only from DFIs, but also from private institutional investors as financial intermediaries to support the venture ecosystems there.
Great, thank you. It's good to hear about the differences between different regions. And if there are any VCs or organizations that work with VCs on the phone and want to connect more with IFC's work, I'm sure that this can be a great initial forum for that. So, Ying, thank you so much. You can stop the screen share. And now for our final speaker, Laura Orestano. Laura is CEO of SocialFare in Italy, and she's going to talk about how digital social innovation can be scaled domestically to meet the SDGs. Laura, over to you.
Thank you, Gila. Thank you all for inviting me over. I will try just to share some experiences, so to shift a little bit from theory to practice in terms of social innovation. Allow me to share my screen. Yes, thank you. And I would like actually to start with this kind of a statement that maybe can change a little bit the perspective. It's a statement, it's an impact statement, it's our statement as a Center for Social Innovation Italy, which actually says that social values may generate economic value. What does that mean? It means that actually there is value, there is hidden value that we can accelerate via technology, and that can generate not only impact, but of course, economic value. So as I said, I am the CEO of SocialFare, the Center for Social Innovation. I'm also president of SocialFare Seed, which is the first seed impact investment vehicle in Italy, and which is strictly linked to the Center for Social Innovation, which, by the way, is also an accelerator. What do we do? Well, specifically, we act to generate social impact. So how do we do that? We do that by what we call accelerating knowledge, meaning all the tools, the methodology, but also I would say the soft skills that are needed in order to tackle societal challenges and also to develop and design solutions. And we accelerate impact startups. And then, of course, our seed investment vehicle makes the first equity investments in the startups that we do accelerate. Why we do that? Well, because we focus on social innovation, and here is the definition of social innovation given by the European Commission back in 2013, which is still very valid, because we want via knowledge and via money, via funding, help develop new products, services, and models to tackle societal challenges while creating new relationship, collaboration, and new economy. Which are the challenges where actually technology can play, and is still already playing a huge role, but actually can become an impact-first technology? Well, this is the state of play of social innovation right now, the greatest challenges of the next decade. You see all the challenges, of course, you are familiar with. And by the way, I would like to draw your attention to specific, quite unique challenges: the challenge of democracy and the challenge of technological development. Why are we talking about the challenge of technological development in social innovation? Well, because we are not seeing yet that impact-first technology that can actually help accelerate and scale up the social innovations that we are nurturing, not only in Italy, but of course, all over the world. If we look closer at the European Union progress towards the 17 SDGs, you see how much or how long the way still is in order to reach significant progress. And of course, I will make this presentation available to you later on. So we needed to navigate complexity by a purpose. This is our approach. We believe is an expanding approach also from corporate to the young generation, the younger generations who more and more are asking for additional knowledge, a different culture, a different perspective, where actually a good job means also helping social progress, helping creating social progress. And digital technologies can actually help in impactful acceleration. Let me just a little bit share again what the ESI is, because it is a type of social innovation that actually spurs collaboration, where innovation users, communities collaborate together via digital technologies and actually co-create solutions that, because or thanks to the internet and the digital solutions, can actually scale at a faster pace. What have we seen so far? I would like to share, of course, some piece of research that maybe is already known to you, but going back to technology, we have also to consider that technology is not enough. Why? Because we are very well aware what kind of technology can have significant potential to improve well-being of people. And I mean, this technology is quite widespread, available. It's not a question of technology anymore. It's a question of how we use it, we embed it in our solutions, and how we actually make it work, become relevant in terms of the right answer, the right solution, the inclusive solution, the innovative solutions to societal challenges. Let me share what I've seen not only in Italy, but also in the practice all over Europe, having been advisor, judge, and having worn different hats in the European Social Innovation Competition since 2018 through 2021. Well, this is a huge competition. You may have heard about that. And the unique thing that we are observing is actually that more and more social innovators do embed technology in their solutions, but the kind of, I would say, focus and challenges they are trying to solve are changing and actually differ from geography to geography. So from Southern Europe, we mainly see solution tackling what is tangible assets or I would say the tangible assets which are in decay, or tackling the issue of migrants and youth access to the job market. From Central Europe, solutions are mainly focusing on how to spur green economy, education, and circular economy. From the UK, before Brexit, of course, lots of solutions on gig economy and community currency, but more and more interesting, from Northern Europe, we are seeing the focus on intangible assets, meaning the exploration of that intangibles, intellectual properties, or social value that actually can be accelerated via digital and technologies. And then from Eastern Europe, technology, digital, and lots of solutions implying blockchain solutions. So the shift is not only which kind of technology, which kind of policies, but also which kind of culture, shifting from the risk-return culture to the risk-return impact approach. And that, of course, changes also the way we perceive risk and we invest our money in the social or digital social innovations. Let me share just a few examples that we as SocialFare help developed quite recently. And of course, because of time constraint, I will just choose maybe a couple of them, or maybe just this one. You have heard maybe about that. Uno Bravo is psychological, or better, a psychotherapy platform solution that was started by us in our accelerator at the beginning of the pandemic and experienced exponential growth through digital acceleration, through the digital platform that more and more will help them develop. So much that we via with Uno Bravo, reached and made actually the biggest exit of a social impact startup in Europe in 2022 to Inside Partners, to the Inside Partners Fund. But I would like to focus on the unique insight that Uno Bravo applied and started with. Well, three psychologists, three girls from southern Italy came to us, and they're working 8-hour shifts, covering 24-hour time zones, because they found an untapped well of patients, meaning Italian expatriates, that because of their status as expatriate would require also some psychological advice and support in their own language, in the Italian language. Well, this kind of insight was so peculiar and really exploded the potential market to them so much that they were not able to respond to the demand. They came to us, we accelerated them not only with our classical impact first acceleration program, but also with lots of focusing on how to develop that unique social value that they had discovered, how to embed that in a technological friendly and usable solution, how to help this technological solution not to be, I would say, bypassed after the first meeting, the first psychotherapy session. This is to say that, and of course, this is just one example, that when we approach and we highlight and we understand the social value which is untapped, which may be a societal need, of course, and challenge, but also a unique interaction, as, for example, the need of an Italian expatriate, of a Chinese expatriate, of a Spanish expatriate, to be supported for his or her mental health in the own language, in the native language. Well, when we understand this kind and discover this kind of social value, then the impact, the potential impact, and the potential economic value, and hence the return on investment, can be really, really relevant and huge. And having said that, of course, I would like to skip the other ones that I leave up to you to investigate, but just to come to conclusion, saying that social innovation is not just about finding the right solution on or to societal challenges, but it implies a quite fundamental architectural choices, meaning that we do not have to just stick or find the technology, the right technology to a social innovation, to support a social innovation, but we need to embed and therefore to make the right choice since the beginning when developing and designing the social innovation. So it's about architecture of choices, about knowledge and skills, about, of course, our policies, and about our sustainability. In the end, it is about our end game. What kind of end game do we want to play? For which end game are we striving? Specifically in Italy, but also from the perspective of my European experience, I would like to summarize just with a few notes. We need more and more researchers of social value. Social value is not something that we can give and take for granted. It's something that deserves our exploration, our professional exploration. We need scientists for intentional innovation. And I'm not using here social innovation. I'm not saying here technological innovation. I'm saying intentional innovation. So the kind of innovation that intentionally tries to reach or to work for social progress. We need to develop designers for social impact and not just, I would say, connoisseur of methodology. because there is also lots of creativity, but also lots of participation and engagement that needs to be built in the design of a social impact solution. We need investors that are not only patient, but also aware that their money can actually work for social progress. And last but not least, we need experimental policymakers, meaning policymakers that are open to experimentation and that are good enough or able enough or risk taker enough to actually design not only boundaries, but also bridges for experimentations, area of experimentation where social innovators, digital social innovators, can actually prove their solution, test their solutions to the market. On top of that, I would like to close by mentioning an OECD research. And I thank you for sharing your research findings, which see me very, I would say, much aligned to the results, to the findings. Well, in the OECD report regarding how to build a social innovation ecosystem that was published a couple of years ago, one key point, specifically for Italy, but also for some of Southern European countries, was the need to bring to the decision making tables social innovators. I mean, we cannot accelerate enough if social innovators do not sit at the decision-making tables. And having said that, I close and I give the floor back to you, Gila. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was such a in-depth and rich presentation. And I couldn't have summed up the calls to action any better than that. That's very comprehensive and very salient. I was really impressed by the social innovation competition that you are involved in, looking at innovative models, business models from across Europe. And I'd like to ask you, what is the one thing that you would like to see in terms of cross-sector collaboration, say between potentially industry or VC or the organization, social innovation organizations, to champion social innovation solutions?
Gila, thank you for your question. I will, of course, I could respond by saying that there is still lots to be done. But one key point is maybe a soft point that needs lots of support also from your side, from our side, which is focusing on the risk-taking or culture of investors. So we need to support investors in understanding how social innovations actually need a diverse, a diversified, but also I would say a more systemic and not only patient risk-taking culture. So it's a culture that actually is needed by the social innovators, but at the same time, I think it deserves also to be a little bit, I would say, fostered in terms of language, in terms of contractual agreements, in terms of sitting at the same on the same side of the table, also versus the investors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, now we have a period of Q&A for our speakers. I've seen some great questions dropped in the Q&A. If you'd like to ask a question, please do raise your hand and we can unmute you and you can ask your question. In the meantime, maybe I'll just check and select one question for each panelist. Let's see, I see here a very interesting question on empirical evidence. Is there any empirical evidence demonstrating the impact of incorporating technology on SDG targets? I wonder if any of our speakers, Ying, does IFC have some empirical evidence? Laura, have you seen anything of that nature? And please feel free to come on camera.
Thanks for that question. So we do, and I think it's probably a fairly granular answer. So I think it really depends on the specific sector that any company that we invest in engage in, and we measure the specific impact reach goals, if you will, depending on the business model of the company. So we do look at, for example, in the health tech space, number of patients reached. If it's in education, we do look at learners' outcome and students' reach as some of the indicators we look at. Similarly, on the climate side, depending on the nature of the investments, we will look at GHG emissions savings or avoidance, or other types of infrastructure type metrics, such as megawatts or megawatt hours generated, if it's an electricity or energy related opportunity. One thing we are looking at, and we do need more empirical evidence, is looking at the second order impact of some of the investments we make in marketplaces and platforms. For example, we're looking at beyond the first level of revenue generation and outcome. How does it impact the stakeholders who are engaged in the marketplace, and how does that impact provide positive economic outcome for them in terms of able to increase their market activities and income generation, being able to engage on these digital platforms. So that is something we're looking at.
Thank you. Other answers from any of the panelists on this question? Is that you, Jonathan? Go ahead.
Yeah. We are conducting a lot of competition regarding SDG, for example, extreme weather event that we held 2 years ago. We have a nature-based solution. Last year and this year is about sustainable logistics. And in the end of the day, these competitions are being financed by corporate that are interested in the solution. It's vital for them, not because of philanthropy or ESG, because they identify it as a risk for them and they want to engage in this technology. And last year we have the prizes exceed €1.5 million to implement and to buy and to invest in those technologies. So definitely, and it's not a charity. So definitely SDGs are relevant, and the solution will they're relevant and they make a lot of money.
Thanks, Jonathan. And Laura, I know you mentioned that there needs to be much more empirical evidence gathered. Do you have other thoughts on that question?
Yeah, I would say that there is empirical evidence also coming from the corporates, for example, more and more. So there is much interest in SDGs, but they are not patient enough to show in the long term that kind of to share the evidence that we would expect. So most of the time what we are seeing in terms of, for example, of relationship between corporates in the terms of open innovation, including social innovations, is that they organize workshop, they do these open innovation things, and then either they acquire the solution, they embed the solution, or they drop the solution. So once they actually embed the solution, we lose track of evidence.
That's too bad. Well, I think that this is something that the ecosystem approach can definitely foster. And I know that there are initiatives led by different corporate foundations to analyze the evidence using kind of their infrastructure as a test case and new technologies, but definitely something to keep our eye out for. Laura, just following up on one of the questions that was posed by an audience member, do you know of any good business models in the field of GovTech, so supporting public digital infrastructure? And I know we have even some attendees here that are coming from this domain and would probably love to hear about
Yes,
this?
and actually, we accelerated one of them. The name is called Synapta specifically. I mean, I will just share that. And as a startup that actually was built by two data scientists that specifically support the, I would say, public bidding transparency and tracks the results of public bidding with a check in the long term, meaning a certain company for public bidding, so within also the GovTech, because public bidding, you know, is mainly public procurement organized at local, national level. And of course, you can bid also in a hybrid consortia, but that doesn't change the nature of the procurement, of the bidding, of the public bidding. They do not only track data in advance, but also track the ability to perform and to deliver by the subjects, of course, the operators that have been selected. And they also track the kind of deliverables in the long term. So I have to say that kind of solution and startup actually was acquired by the centralized GovTech Chamber of Commerce unit in Italy, just because it was really not only helpful, but was building transparency and also awareness on the kind of potential market that different competitors could see while screening ex-ante data.
Got it. That's a really interesting example. So it's good to hear that there are a lot of business models coming to the fore, and also funding models. So whether it's a government body that's supporting GovTech, or it can also be, I know a lot of funding models that come from the charitable sector. So in the US, there's an organization called the US Digital Response, working with different offices of government to help them digitize their services. And there are probably numerous other. Our last question for this segment, I'm going to ask Ying. Somebody asked about IFC's strategy with regard to supporting enterprises in Western Balkans or the Caucasus. Are you guys active in that area?
We are. Sorry, I neglected to mention the region. That's my mistake. We are active investor in the regions.
Great, good to know. Okay, great. Well, this has been a really, really rich discussion. I really want to thank Jonathan, Ying, Laura for your insights, for sharing more about your businesses and your approach, and hopefully we can continue to encourage more cross-sector collaboration through your examples. And now we'll move over to the interactive ideation segment of the webinar. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Omri Boral. Omri is founder and CEO of Imagine Impact, and she's been a strategic advisor on this project. I'm sure she'll lead us in a very, very lively discussion. And Omri, over to you.
Thank you very much, Gila. And thank you for everyone who spoke so far, and for everyone who's been very quiet attendee. And at this point, what we would like is to start to hear from you guys after kind of getting a little bit of the context, both of the research and the work that has been done through the project, and also from our three speakers. We have a few questions for you, which we'd love to ask you to answer through the poll tool of the Zoom. But after every time you answer, with the few minutes that we have, we'd like to also have one or two of you just comment and talk to us a little bit about what you've been seeing in your own ecosystem. So I'll ask for Kyungmin's help to launch the first poll question, which basically, as you've heard so far, there are a lot of different players involved, and as always, there are some that are more involved than others, obviously, when we're talking about tech-oriented ecosystems. And we would love to hear from some of you about what kind of actors you find are absent or lacking in their engagement in such ecosystems that are focusing both on technology and the SDGs or impact. And if you have an example or a story of a successful method where you were able to engage such an actor that was lacking in the ecosystem, we'd love to hear about it. So if everyone has had a chance to vote already, we can see the answers. And if you have, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand, and we'll open the mic for you. So great, I see that. Interesting that 42% mention industry players as those who are not engaged enough. And then the following is government, which less of a surprise there, I would say. So let me allow Daniel, here, you can go ahead and share with us what you wanted to say. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for having me. So yes, hi, I'm Daniel, and I see a lot of familiar faces. And I'm working for an impact consultancy in the Global South. So we only deal with issues on how to improve the lives of people in the Global South. One thing that we've seen in countries like India is the use of digital public infrastructure to really accelerate progress against the SDGs. You know, financial inclusion is a huge issue in countries like India, and through the amazing work that the government has done by creating a digital public infrastructure, it's really facilitated the ability for a street vendor, you know, on the side of the street, literally, to be able to get paid for a cup of tea that he or she is making that may just cost, you know, a couple of cents, you know, and that is all because the government has done such incredible work on DPI. So I think for me, it's a great example of how government can take a real active role in creating infrastructure that facilitates a lot of the digital solutions that otherwise would be really hard to get off the ground without a common infrastructure where you can literally just plug and play straight into the system. And we're seeing the benefits now, not just in financial inclusion, but we're actually working with the Indian government on doing something similar for health, around digital health, creating that. So I wonder if you know, if there are lessons that can be learned by the Global South on this, and if we can, you know, if any of the panelists had any ideas around how the Global North might take a more proactive role, especially governments, in doing something similar. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a wonderful example, and I think what's great about it also is that the governments already have that data, so it doesn't require a lot of resources. Nobody has to go and collect the data. It's just about making it more accessible and allowing that interaction between the government and the data and between the rest of the ecosystem. So thank you very much for sharing that. And due to lack of time, we'll move on to the next question. So if you have anything else that you wanted to share, please use the Q&A. Apologies for rushing this a little bit. So the second question is just to see if, and we'd love to have someone share a model or a best practice that you've witnessed or you've been a part of that creates that innovative interaction between those different stakeholders and really accelerates either the innovation part of SDG aligned tech or the implementation of it, which is another very difficult and very challenging part. So thank you very much for answering the poll. And if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. Great. So we have Andrews, right? Hi.
Yes. Hello, Omri. Thank you very much. I want to share a quick example about SDG oriented innovation program called Unleash Innovation Labs for the SDGs. I think probably a few people here may have heard of Unleash, and I happen to be an ambassador of Unleash. I joined as a talent, and it was basically an innovation lab where you are gathering 1,000 young people across the globe to solve for the Sustainable Development Goals in a challenge within the context of the SDGs. So helping to accelerate progress towards the goals. But the innovative approach that Unleash takes is using the common design thinking methodology, but in the context of Unleash, it's called the innovation process, the Unleash innovation process, where you are solving a social problem, but with a potential solution that could be developed into a business concept. So we found a problem, go through a design thinking process where you find a problem, you ideate, and then develop, MVPs around that specific problem that you're trying to tackle. But then the impact or commercialization aspect of those problems begin to be tested further, where you develop a business model. So within that framework, you are realizing that we are solving for the SDGs and potentially creating businesses, right? So Unleash through the Innovation Lab, we are then progressed, or more like a transition into what they call the Unleash Plus. That becomes an incubator program where you would get partners, scaling partners coming in to support that innovation, to harness those skill sets, get investors also signing up to support that innovation to take off from the ground. And there's also the hand-holding process where you engage mentors, capacity developers, scaling partners here and there to make sure that those programs are able to take off. And we can point a number of solutions within health tech, agri-tech, fintech solution that have emanated from Unleash Innovation Lab. The catalog is on the website. I won't spend much time to go deeper, but I happen to have developed an open source wash solution in 2019 where we just created a simple virtual reality set trying to show the challenges with sanitation, safely managed sanitation challenges in the global south, particularly in Ghana, where I'm based. And then we develop innovative approaches on solving that, just picking these things and then engaging key decision makers and also soliciting for investment, because the innovations are there, they're in silos. So we try and bridge the gap through our virtual reality system and then also co-blended learning approaches to it. So that is it. And I'm happy to speak further on this if the opportunity arises again. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And I agree with you that breaking the silos is one of the main challenges, because otherwise we are each left with everything that we already know. And what we're missing is everyone else's knowledge and access. So great. Thank you very much for sharing about Unleash. We'll move on to the third question and then take one last comment before we have to wrap up. So the third question is a little bit kind of more open. And as Gila has already mentioned at the beginning, our project was built in a way where each ecosystem, each country started by researching its own ecosystem, but then the main engagement and the main challenge that we took upon ourselves was to find out how we might be able to strengthen connections between ecosystems and kind of build on the strength of one, and to be able to identify such best practices as we've been discussing throughout this webinar, and to see how we can implement them, replicate them in any way, so that other ecosystems can enjoy the knowledge that was already built. So for the final question, I would love to hear from someone if you've already done anything of that sort, if you've found a new method that you were able to share with another ecosystem or built towards strengthening the connections between two different ecosystems. So if anyone has a comment or anything to share about that, that would be great. Okay, so Shaha, I see that you, just a second.
Here.
Okay, great.
I muted myself. So thank you for having me. I'm Shachar, I'm CEO of EatID. We are a food impact, health, climate startup. This is one of the problem, but we are into a section of making what we're doing. We helping any food service know what the food preferences of people, helping them to lower the overproduction from one side, do less harm to the environment by not doing any overproduction. And from the other side, we're helping people make more informed decisions regarding what they eat. So we're going into the health side. So I have to say, first of all, it was very interesting, all of the things that are said here. But the problem of young startups, they don't have time to look for all those connections, to find all those people. And there's a lot of meetups, there's a lot of hubs that really wants us a lot of our time, and we don't have a lot of time. And then if there were an online centers that we can address and find, again, connections, and not always just come. And I'm coming to a lot of meetups, and I'm in part of all kind of communities. And this is one part, opening the connection directly. There is in Israel, like a little bit of a directory of a startup sales nation, but there are not enough. I have to say that I found the connection to the people that in charge in food waste in the US in the website. And I managed to send an email, and I had a meeting over there. And then in Europe, I'm for 2 years trying to understand who is in charge of the section in the farm to fork strategy that apply to what we do. And it's like a barrier that you go through another page, you don't find anybody, just a lot of words and not the people that really can interact and bring action. And I think this is the most important thing. The startups need the ability to show what they have. If it's relevant, it's great. If not, it's great also. But still, the time it takes to find those connections, it's really crucial to
I think we all hear you and understand and sympathize. Definitely, it's part of the challenge. And I think entrepreneurs have so many different challenges to cope with. And I have to say that I think there are quite a bit of networks and different platforms that can be used. There's no one, no one that gathers everything, and there's no one person that is in charge of a specific topic. But I think part of what we were trying to do today and what we are doing throughout the project is to create those networks. And I think there's no way to replace the personal connection. And the moment that we have a contact person from one ecosystem, that kind of paves the way to find the right person or the right organization. And hopefully you would be able to use the platform that we are building, plus everyone who were here in this webinar, to start and slowly pave the way to find the right connections. And I definitely agree that this is a challenge for everyone, not only for startups, but definitely for entrepreneurs. And with this, I apologize, but as our time is short, we have to cut this discussion short. And I will just transfer to Vanessa to wrap up the event. So thank you everyone for being with us, and we'd love to keep in touch.
Thank you, Omri. Thank you, Gila. Thank you, Ying. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Jonathan. In a perfect world, we will be able to duplicate you and move you across the different ecosystem to create viable SDG-driven innovation ecosystem. But what we're trying to do is exactly what Andrew said. I appreciate the comment of breaking the silos and trying to work more in sync and interconnect the ecosystems and the ecosystem strengths. Thank you for being here. I will request for you to invest 2 or 3 more minutes. Once the webinar will close, you will receive a really quick survey because we want to engage with you. We want to peek into your brains and connect with you for our next steps of work. Thank you. Join us in our next steps. Have a great evening, everybody.